So with some of the new additions and changes we've gotten with the launch of The War Within and the 20th anniversary patch, we've gotten some incredibly strong new methods to be able to farm some old resources. So that's what I wanted to go over in this video, and more specifically, how you're able to farm a ridiculous amount of Time-Warped Badges and 20th anniversary tokens. Now there's two big changes that allow this farm to exist. First off, being the transferable currency that came with warbands, so you can go on one character and transfer any of the currencies from the currency tab to that character from any of your other characters. And then the second change being with the 20th anniversary patch, we also got classic time walking that now allows you to queue up for it starting at level 10. And I will also say that when the developers were talking about this kind of time walking refresh, it seems like they were explaining that every time walking event would now start at level 10. So even if it was, say, like Legion time walking, you'd be able to queue up for the dungeons starting at level 10, but I'm not 100% certain on that. So it may be that only classic time walking starts at level 10 and other time walking start at a higher level. So just keep that in mind. It may only be classic time walking that allows you to do this farm, but I think it's more pointing in the direction that all time walking is going to start at level 10. So if all time walking starts at level 10, you'll be able to do this farm going forward in World of Warcraft. Now this farm is primarily going to be focused around farming a ton of time-warped badges, but if you also want to farm 20th anniversary tokens, you're going to need to earn the token collector achievement, which you get when you've earned 100 total tokens for the 20th anniversary, which is really easy to do now. But once you have that achievement, this farm will also be giving you a good amount of tokens as well. And on top of all of that, if you're somebody that's already farmed all of the tokens you need to get all of the cosmetics you want, you can also turn 20th anniversary tokens into time-warped badges at a rate of 1 token to 20 time-warp badges. So that will actually massively increase how many time-warp badges you'd be getting from this farm as well. And this farm is actually incredibly simple. All you're going to be doing is creating a new character as an allied race because they start at level 10. Then you're going to be queuing up for a time-walking dungeon. Once you've completed that time-walking dungeon, at the end, you're going to loot the item that gives you the quest to go turn in at the time walking vendor, and once you go turn that in, you'll get a big chunk of time warped badges. Now this farm did actually get nerfed earlier in the War Within, because previously if you went and did a time walking dungeon, the quests you pick up from defeating the final boss and turning in would always give you 500 time warp badges, but because you can transfer currency now, only the first one per week will give you 500 badges. All of the other ones on alt characters will give you 200 badges. But even though that's a pretty heavy nerf, you can still do this farm incredibly quickly, and this is by far the best way to farm up a ton of time warp badges, especially if you're trying to get a lot of the new cosmetics. Because with the 20th anniversary and classic time walking, not only did we get a bunch of new cosmetics specific with classic time walking, but the vendors for the other time walking events have also gotten a refresh. So all of those will also have new cosmetics to go earn as well. And on top of that, you'll also be getting the small amount of time warp badges for every boss you kill. And then if you also have the token collector achievement, you'll also be getting 2 tokens per run. So you can either use those on cosmetics, or if you want to, you can turn them into more time warp badges, which will be an additional 40 time warp badges per run, which will actually add quite a lot of additional badges. And since you're going to be queuing up for these dungeons, I would recommend you choose to do this on a tank or a healer. Now, I would generally recommend you do this on a healer just because of how the scaling generally works, because healers, especially at this low level, just do ridiculous amounts of damage. I would generally recommend you just choose a shaman and then go restoration, because restoration shamans right at the start can pick up chain lightning, so you can just spam chain lightning while doing these dungeons, and you'll be doing like half the health of all of the enemies, hitting them with 1 chain lightning. You'll be doing like 90% of the group's damage just by spamming this 1 cast. And not only that, but basically any heal you need to throw out will pretty much fully heal anybody, no matter what level they are. So this will just allow you to get into the dungeon fast and just make the dungeon go much faster than it normally would be. As a level 10 Resto Shaman, you do also have Flame Shock, Lava Burst, and a Lightning Bolt just as a baseline. So you're not only going to be able to destroy destroy groups of enemies, but you're also going to have incredibly strong single target damage at that level. So I generally think this is probably going to be the best pick for making these dungeons go as quickly as possible. And I would also recommend to use heirlooms if you have them. You're not going to be leveling this character up very much. So even if you have heirlooms that aren't leveled up a bunch, I would still recommend using them. And if you have heirloom rings, you can just have a full set of gear very easily. That'll just massively increase your power as well. Now, I think the biggest issue you're going to come across with this farm is actually transferring your currency to other characters, because both the 20th anniversary tokens and the Timewarped badges are in your currency tab, and this means you can transfer them to other characters, but because of how the currency transfer works right now, you have to go on a different character and pull the resources from the character that has the currency on them. So you can't just send like these Timewarped badges to one of your mains or something. So with that being the case, I think the best way to do this farm is just to create a new character, go do your time walking dungeon, go turn in the quest at the time walking vendor in the fairgrounds, log off that character, and then go create a new character. And once you're done doing your farming session, just go on your main and pull the currency off of all of those characters at once, and then go delete all of them. And that'll be the best way to do that to save the most time. Now, if you're somebody that has like 50 or more character slots filled up, you may have to do this more just because you don't have the character slots, but I feel like that's a very low percentage of the player base. And on a side note, some of the new cosmetics from the classic time walking vendor are really cool. Specifically, there's a bunch of weapons from Season of Discovery, which are basically weapons made with a much higher fidelity than you would find in classic, but they're made in the style of classic items. So they have a really unique look because they do feel like something that would have been in classic, but they also have that higher fidelity. Especially looking at the dragon shield, I just think that shield is really cool too. So that's pretty much the entirety of this farm. This is currently the best way to farm up Timewarped badges, and it's also a really good way to farm up 20th anniversary tokens. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.